Today we're going to be checking out Ned Kelly's Last Stand. This is an Australian outlaw and was suggested by one of our viewers using our Google link down below. If you want to suggest a certain video, that's the best way to get it watched by us. Check it out.
Yeah, so thank you for that suggestion. We're here to learn some more Australian history. We did a video pretty recently that was also suggested by that person about the First Fleet. Now we're going to see a little bit more into that.
Is this the Billy the Kid of Australia? Because Australia, with that outback, they had to have some like Wild West vibes going on.
Jeez, I mean, the outback's huge, so they gotta be some crazy stuff.
They had to have so many and it was filled with criminals.
Yeah.
Like they sent them from the U.S., or not the U.S., the U.K., whatever it was called, Great Britain probably back then,
yeah,
something like
so.
that. And they sent them there, and you think some of them were like, I don't want to live in this town. I'm going to become an outlaw.
And this is the last stand.
So does that mean he died?
Maybe.
The remote South Australian settlement of Glen Rowan gets woken by a knock at the door. Jumping out of bed and dressing quickly, the door is burst open. Shouting out, he asks, "What's that for? Who are you?" The reply was, "I am Ned Kelly." In the doorway he stood, an imposing figure clad in a long overcoat. Barging in, Kelly pushed the station master back into the bedroom, where his wife and children were still in the bed. Kelly ordered John to finish dressing and told him, "You have to come with me and take up the rails. There's a special train coming." Having earlier shot 3 policemen, Ned Kelly and his gang have been storming the area by robbing banks and train stations wearing bush armor. The armor is crudely fashioned from plows and other lumps of metal. The South Australian police have tracked him down using Aboriginal trackers, who know the country even better than Kelly and his gang.
Wow, this literally sounds like the Wild West. They would have used Native Americans to help track down outlaws potentially, and they're just like robbing trains and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, did he like actually have this much like aura behind him? The like beginning of it, it sounds like he's just a sick dude.
Police and trackers are on a train on their way to Glen Rowan to get their man. Kelly knows that unless he stops the trackers, the police will always be onto him and the 3 others in his gang. Kelly's plan is to pull up the train tracks near a deep precipice and have the train fall to certain disaster.
Whoa.
Dragging the station master from his house, he sets to work. They dig at the tracks and set their trap. With some time before the train arrives, the gang gather up the small population of Glen Rowan and take them hostage at the local hotel. Kelly's gang are known for their good humor, and he is somewhat of a local folk hero. When he robs the banks, he burns the records, making it difficult for them to reclaim their loans. When he robs a bar, he gives free beer to all the locals.
Hey,
but the police are finally catching up with him, and Ned and his gang are getting desperate.
Off a cliff, though.
Despite his reputation, in the hotel, the hostages and the station master are told in no uncertain terms that if they try to signal the oncoming train, they will be shot. Ned has miscalculated the arrival of the train, and a long wait sets in. So Kelly and his gang decide to entertain themselves and their hostages while they wait. A teacher by the name of Thomas Kernow gave an account of what happened. Dan Kelly, Ned's brother, a short time after I entered the hotel, asked me to have a drink with him, and I drank with him at the bar. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ned and Dan Kelly called several of the prisoners to engage in jumping with the hop, step, and jump. Ned Kelly joined in with them and used a revolver in each hand as weights.
What?
The gang engaged in drinking and insisted music be played, that people danced, and songs be sung, some of which were about the Kelly gang. Some of the gang overindulged themselves, but Ned stayed sober. With the time dragging on, the teacher convinced the Kelly gang that his wife was ill and he had to take her home. Amazingly, the gang allowed them to leave, with the warning that they would be regularly checked upon, and if he were to try and warn the train, that they would be silenced permanently. Once home, the teacher was racked by his conscience. He later said, "I could not rest, and I felt I must perform what was clearly my duty. I heard the train coming in the distance as I was harnessing the horse, and I immediately caught up the candle, scarf, and matches and ran down the line to meet the train. I ran on until I got to where those in the train would be able to see the danger signal for some distance. I then lit the candle and held it behind the red scarf. The guard on the train saw the signal and shouted out, 'What's the matter?' The teacher shouted back, 'The Kellys.' The driver slammed on the brakes and the train screeched along the track. At the last second, the train stopped, just in time. The police, the trackers, and several journalists disembarked from the train. The police were told many times that the Kelly gang were wearing armor, but they dismissed it as nonsense. Maybe the overactive imaginations of the settlers, or a joke. The police set up their positions, surrounding the hotel, and a siege began.
Dang.
Reporting on the siege, the Australasian sketcher said, "The first brush was exceedingly hot. The police and the gang blazed away at each other in the darkness furiously. There was nothing but a succession of flashes and reports, the pinging of bullets in the air, and the shriek of the women prisoners in the hotel." The melee continued throughout the night.
I'm surprised they haven't made a movie about this. This looks like it would be the set of a Western movie.
And the way it's set up and everything, it's a great story and everything. Why aren't they making a movie on this?
So if they made movies about Australian outlaws, it wouldn't be called Wild West. It'd be called the Down Under, something.
The Wild Outback. That's
We're
not
getting
creative at
Wild
all.
Down Under,
Yeah.
something. I
But the
don't know.
gang were completely outnumbered. In the early morning, Ned decided his best course of action was to try and escape before it got too late. He was spotted by a policeman called Sergeant Steele. Steele had known the Kelly gang for years, and they were bitter enemies. Steele said, "It was then breaking day. I looked around and I saw a man stalking down. I thought he was a black fellow wrapped in a blanket and called on the others to be careful. I then saw him present a revolver and fire at a policeman. The police returned the fire, but to the surprise and incredulity of the police, the bullets had no effect. One shouted, 'He's a madman!' Another, 'He's the devil!' and 'He's the bunyip!' Kelly began laughing. He taunted the police and shouted to his gang in the hotel to
Wow, what a
restart
guy.
the fight. This carried on for 10 more minutes. A
You think it
journalist
was
wrote,
storming like this all the
"With the
time
steam
too?
rising
Had
from the
to
ground,
be.
it looked for all the world
For
like the
dramatic
ghost of
effect.
Hamlet's father, with no head, only a very long, thick neck. It was the most extraordinary sight I ever saw or read of in my life, and I felt fairly spellbound with wonder, and I could not stir or speak." However, Sergeant Steele was a cooler head. He later said, "I could see the bullets hitting him and staggering him for a moment. They had no further effect. I therefore thought he had armor on and determined to have a close shot at him." Steele aimed at Ned's unprotected legs and caught him with 2 shots.
Oh.
Steele's account continued.
It took them 10 minutes to be like, hey, maybe we should shoot his legs.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We're in the open, and he fell and cried, "I'm done! I'm done!" I ran up to him then, and he turned savagely and tried to shoot me, but I pushed the revolver down. I had a great scuffle with him, but others ran up, and his shots had no effect. We found a bag of ammunition, and when we divested him of his armor, we found that he was weak from loss of blood. I was strained in the scuffle, but we got our man. Found guilty and sentenced, Kelly's last words were, well, I suppose it has come to this."
Oh,
Kelly has since
All
become
right.
an Australian folk hero. His armour still survives and can still be seen today at the State Library of Victoria.
That's
so
cool.
If you like this video, and we hope you
Whoa.
do, please
You can
consider
see,
supporting us on
gunshots in
Patreon.
there.
Wow.
We need more patrons to help us make more videos like these.
What a
Very
guy.
interesting. Very interesting.
He was ready to go out with a bang, his last stand.
He had his arm. He thought he was invincible in his armor, but he should have made leg plates as well.
Should have been a
apparently.
full bodysuit.
Like
of
a
armor.
knight.
Yeah.
Wow, what an interesting. It's so cool to know stuff like this existed in Australia because we never learned about the outback outlaws before.
No, we were never even close to learning about anything like this. So it's cool to see this little story.
How far away from the main cities or from the coast did this stuff happen? Because obviously they were going out on the train, I would assume, for a while. Was this in between the big cities, even more coastal, or was this deeper into the outback?
Yeah. You guys have to let us know some more information on this. We just got to see the storytelling, but there's still a lot to learn.
Yeah, we learned about. They should have had a better nickname for him about being made out of metal or something.
I'm not going to be creative enough to think of anything in this.
Metal Kelly.
Metal Kelly.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.